And this doctor wrote on his little prescription pad, "Get out of the house."
Well, almost 15 years ago, Shemane Nugent and her husband Ted were living the good life, enjoying each other in this home featured on the very popular show MTV Cribs. But what they did not know is that their home was killing them.
We built our dream home.
Over a beautiful lake. It was a paradise. It was the definitive dream of my homeness.
Just had the feeling of like this was the home that my parents were on their journeys, and it all led to them building this home.
But there was a secret that I kept inside of me, that I wasn't feeling so good.
Shemane was having constant battles with headaches, or didn't feel well, or random but accumulated things.
The reason I knew it was the house was because whenever we traveled, I felt better. My home that was once featured on MTV Cribs, which was right back there, was contaminated with toxic mold between the walls. We never saw anything, we just kept getting sicker and sicker. And I became my own investigative sleuth.
It feels like she really became an expert on the topic of mold and how mold affects the health and the body, mind, spirit health.
Acknowledge, yes, you're sick and it's not a figment of your imagination.
Shemane started researching for doctors that had experience in the toxigenic effects.
There were very few doctors who, number one, believed that there was anything wrong with me, number two, could help me.
You know, if things were not taught in medical school and not taught in a postgraduate training, and there's no drug to fix it, then a lot of times doctors will reject that it even exists.
And I kept getting sicker and sicker, and I had to pop one medication after another. It was an experiment to see which medication would work the best. I mean, the migraines were so debilitating, I thought I was dying.
It felt like death. It felt like literal death.
Mold and water damages are what I refer to as unpredictably unsafe, meaning you have no idea what problems you're dealing with until it's tested.
It's like taking a frog. If you throw that frog in a boiling pot of water, it's going to jump out. But if you put that frog in a pot of water and then slowly turn it up, it'll stay there until it's too late.
I'll never forget it. And this doctor wrote on his little prescription pad, "Get out of the house." We had to leave.
The house that they had ended up having to be knocked down.
There are these toxins that are created by mold that we call mycotoxins that are directly toxic to the human body. People have long-term issues after they've been exposed that relate to their exposure in the first place. When we think of all of the problems that are related to chronic inflammation, we're talking about the #1 cause of death on planet Earth, according to the World Health Organization. I think it's really incumbent upon people to realize that doctors are basically regurgitating whatever they have learned, and that is finite. You have to be your own advocate.
Being someone who had cultivated plenty of health and wellness during her life, all of a sudden completely unable to, I think it motivated and inspired her to get to the bottom of her inability to have metaphysical wellness.
I literally was detoxifying my body with alternative remedies, or now they call it functional medicine, like vitamin IVs, oxygen, an infrared sauna, and a strict diet. But it was what saved my life.
We fortified ourselves with regimens and therapies that brought us back to health, but it was a reminder that if you just blindly adhere to the status quo of industry and government and society, you can get sick and die for no excusable reason.
It's happened to us, and if it can happen to us, it can happen to other people too. I'm going to be answering any and all of your questions about toxic mold, how to recover from it, so get your questions ready. I started thinking, you know, we never really reconstruct our dream house. And we're finally getting able to build our clean, green, energy-efficient home that will provide us with the quality of air that we need to be healthy and to live a happy life. There's a lot of different theories on how you should treat this. So that's my mission in life, is to try to cure myself, my family, and others, and expose the dirty little secret about toxic mold. In 2001, my home that was once featured on MTV Cribs was contaminated with toxic mold, and I got very sick. So did my family. I spent years trying to find out how to cure myself and my husband Ted and my son Rocco using functional medicine or alternative remedies rather than prescription drugs. Well, that set me on a spiral to becoming a healthy lifestyle ambassador, and I'm producing a documentary about my story. And I'm going to give you a glimpse of some of the things that have happened to me, and also talk with some other people who have been affected by toxic mold. Stick around, I'll be right back. Dr. Elizabeth Seymour is a family and functional medicine physician who joined the staff of the Environmental Health Center in 2015. She learned, witnessed, employed, and experienced the techniques and knowledge of Dr. William Ray, who treated me. And they examined patients together. Dr. Seymour, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I remember Dr. Ray. Remember the first time that I saw him, I was exposed to toxic mold between the walls of my home that was once featured on MTV Cribs. And I got so sick I couldn't even walk up a flight of stairs. I had 4 different types of mold in my bloodstream, and I was diagnosed with having pre-emphysema. And I remember Dr. Ray walking into the room, and there were 2 other physicians with him following his every move. And I couldn't even drink out of a water bottle. And I remember him saying, like, I didn't even have enough energy to lift the water bottle to my mouth. And I remember him saying, you shouldn't be drinking out of that plastic water bottle. Does that sound like something he would say?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, when I first came here, he said, you should be drinking out of glass bottles. That stuff leaches, especially in the summertime. So, yeah.
Dr. Ray saved my life. Absolutely no question. What sort of things did you learn from him, and how are you treating patients? Is there anything new that wasn't around when I was there back in 2003?
Yeah, so what I really learned, I did family medicine and functional medicine. And functional medicine is integrative, natural. You could call it alternative, even though Dr. Ray said there's no such thing as alternative medicine, it's medicine. And so when I came to meet Dr. Ray and learned with him, a lot of our patients came on supplements, and naturally people are reaching for supplements to help with their symptoms and their conditions. And, I read or I heard that this may help with this symptom or this condition. And so many people come in on, 10, 20 different types of supplements. And one thing I really learned with him was people don't realize that all of your supplements are usually made from some type of food source. So if people come in with food allergies unbeknownst to them, or maybe they eat one specific food and they have an allergy to it, they don't realize that they may be reacting also to some of their supplements, what the food source comes from that. So sometimes we use supplements, many a times, but other times we'll tell patients, hey, go off of those for a little bit and see how you feel and see how you do. The other things that we implemented, obviously I've done much of what he's done. He mentored me, and I learned all of his steps on how you evaluate a patient, how you investigate what they have, how you clean up their environment, how you treat their medical illnesses, how you detoxify them. And so I've definitely carried his legacy on, exactly what he does in his protocols. But I've also implemented ozone therapies here, because ozone was used long before antibiotics and antiviral medications. And it's a treatment that we use a lot for sinus infections and allergies and many other ailments.
What a lot of people don't realize is I'm going to be devoting a whole show to mold and some of the things that I've been doing. but you have so many other symptoms, like you said, sinus problems, that you might not think were related to one thing like mold exposure. But I remember when I was there, I did extensive allergy testing for foods, and I was on a rotation diet so that, if I ate chicken on Monday, I couldn't eat it again till Thursday. And my body got so cleaned out. One of the allergy tests that I was doing, I remember, was for vinegar. And when I I literally fell off my chair that I found out I was so allergic to it. And I never would have thought, because vinegar is in everything.
Correct. Yes, so we see that a lot. I can give you example after example. I had some crunchy granola people who came in from Austin, and this woman said, "Oh, I eat the best diet ever. I'm gluten-free, I'm dairy-free, I don't have any food allergies." And then I said, "Well, what do you eat?" And she said, "I eat chicken and I eat spinach every day." And so what did we test? We skin tested chicken and we skin tested spinach to see whether or not it created a wheal or whether it provocated her symptoms. And same thing, she came in and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea." Because many a times when patients eat foods, if they have food allergies, you would expect, I'm going to break out in a rash, I'm going to have gut issues, abdominal bloating, nausea, heartburn, diarrhea, constipation. And that's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a GI issue just because it could be a food allergy. So yes, and there's many things that Dr. Ray and I have tested that people just don't think of. It can be molds, it could be chemicals, it can be foods, it can be implants that patients have, not just breast implants, but any type of implant that a patient has. Maybe they have their knee replaced, maybe they have their hip replaced. What is that made of? And we basically explain to patients that we don't necessarily know what the immune response is to that. Yes, knee implants and knee replacements help you function and get out of bed and get off the toilet and get out of the car and go upstairs. But depending on what that's made of, it could be titanium or chromium cobalt or many different ingredients, types of metals that are used in these implants that sometimes your immune system reacts to. And unbeknownst to patients, they have no idea. So we test a lot of different things, and it's really insightful for patients when they're sitting in a clean room and in a controlled environment with clean air and no mold, and they're not eating anything. And you put an antigen on their skin and you see, well, let's see what happens. And just like you, we've had patients, become emotional and cry. They've been on the floor, they've passed out, their heart starts racing, their eyes starts twitching, their nose starts running, their abdomen starts bloating. There's just multiple symptoms that can provocate someone based on what they're allergic to.
What percentage of your patients do you think have had mold exposure?
Since we're known to be kind of the gurus of mold here in Dallas, I would say at least 85% of patients have mold exposures that come to us and seek us out.
And a lot of people don't realize that they've even had mold exposure. I remember when I was there was a woman who was in an apartment building that was very close. Her window was open to next to another building where they had mold in their bathroom, and her window was always open, and she got sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there can be cross-contamination and those types of scenarios that can happen. And, mold is everywhere. So a lot of people want to brush it under the rug and say, oh, what's the big deal, just because it decomposes everything. But we do know that based on blood testing and based on skin testing, you can have not only an allergic response, but also an immune response. And that's what we're really looking into, because most patients think of mold allergy as I get what I call the Zyrtec commercial, the sneezy, coughy, wheezy, runny nose, itchy eyes, watery eyes, types of symptoms that are most synonymous with allergies and sinus infections and bronchitis. But it can be beyond that patients get many other symptoms and they don't relate that to mold. And many patients don't know, what does it mean? What if I have mold in my shower? Or what if I don't see any type of mold growth? How do I know? And so we really help the patients figure out, make sure that their first place that they are is their home. And you have to make sure that the home is a clean environment. So you can do mold tests via plates or spore counts to see whether or not there's mold growth in there. And then we will specifically test what types of molds those are to see whether or not they have a sensitivity or an allergy to it. And then the whole point of skin testing is to, number one, avoid it. And then if you can't avoid it, if you can't physically move out, or if you just say, I walk outside and I start sneezing, or I start to get a runny nose or congested, then we go with antigen therapy or allergy shots that helps desensitize them so that they're able to function and not have so many symptoms that can debilitate them.
Is it true that the mold mycotoxin can lay dormant in your organs and come back months or even years later because of a physiological or emotional trauma that you experience?
Yes. So the mycotoxins, which are the toxins that are produced by molds, are very similar to like a bacterial toxin, except when you get a bad bacteria, if you get sepsis or septic from a bacterial toxin, you'll immediately know. You may have fevers, chills, fluctuations in your blood pressure. Mycotoxins are the toxins that are produced from molds, but they lay and they store in the fat cells. And so it doesn't matter if you're super skinny and you have 0 or a very low percentage of fat, you still have fat within your body and fat cells. And your brain is predominantly made of fat. Your nerves are predominantly lipid-based and made of fat. Every single cell that you have is, the cell membrane is made of fat and liposomes. So, these mycotoxins will get into the cells and it's difficult to get them out. And that's why we put patients on a detoxification process where we help with them sweating, we help with their lymphatic drainage, we give them oral supplements that they're not allergic to, that are clean, that don't have a lot of additives or coloring or any kind of fillers in them. And then we also will sometimes do IV nutrients, because many a times when patients have gut issues, they are unable to absorb the nutrients as well. And so they really benefit from IV nutrients. That helps them detox.
My protocol was I would do a little bit of exercise. There was a little Stairmaster type thing. I would take some supplements, and I would go into the sauna for, I think, about 15 to 30 minutes. And then I would do vitamin IV, and and while I was doing the vitamin IV, I would have oxygen, and I would also get a massage too.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It sounds like a medical spa.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to do that more often. I mean, I haven't been there in so long, and I've got to come back and do the treatment that you guys have, because it saved my life. Dr. Ray, I'm producing a documentary on mold, and I so wanted to interview Dr. Ray for it, and I'm so sorry that he passed away before last year, and I wasn't able to speak with him then, but I wanted to tell him. I wanted to show him I'm healthy again and to thank him for saving my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, we miss him so much. He was such a mentor and such a wonderful physician to learn from. I was truly blessed to have the opportunity to meet him and be invited to come down to Dallas and learn with him. And then ultimately, you know, after his passing, I became the medical director, and really, truly want to carry on his legacy, because you are one of thousands of patients that have said he truly saved my life. And it's just a good feeling, and it's a wonderful thing to have a job like that every day, where you can see patients, and obviously they're sick, they're tired, they're in pain, they're depressed, they're exhausted, they've spent thousands of dollars to see other physicians, they've seen other physicians, they've done every test there is, and then they come here and they're like, help, and we're sometimes their last stop. And that can be very pressure driven, you know, when they say you're the last doctor I ever want to see. But we really do our best to help teach them and educate them that it's usually your environment that is causing some health issues. Now, genetics obviously can play a role too, but the majority of the time, your environment is what is causing a problem. Yes. And we have to clean that environment up, be it what you eat, what you drink, the air you breathe, how you detoxify, etc.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. You have changed my life. Your environmental health center has changed my life, and I can't wait to visit you guys soon. And again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the work that you do, and for being so dedicated to helping others.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back. No matter how difficult our day is, or what we look like, or how we feel, our faithful fur babies love us unconditionally. You know, spending time with your pet can help lower your blood pressure and cholesterol and prevent heart attacks. Just being around my dogs calms me and boosts my spirits. Check out my Shopify account and pick up a dog-loving t-shirt or mug today. Kim Francis has over 20 years of experience in marketing, media, sponsorship, sales, and special events within the entertainment industry and telecommunications and sports and nonprofit industries. She's a founder of 1911 Marketing. She's written several books and is the producer of The Jay Young Show. In 2006, though, Kim became very ill and was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. During the course of treatment, she felt worse. It wasn't until she had discovered a plumbing issue that she realized it was the source of her illness. Kim, unfortunately, we have a lot in common.
We do.
And I'm sorry, because I know all too well. But tell me, what were some of your symptoms? What did you have to deal with? You found mold.
Yeah, so basically I had purchased my first home. It was a townhome in SMU area of Dallas in 2005 and had this beautiful, luxurious shower that sunk down. You know, like women, we'd love to get in there and just, you know, condition our hair and shave and everything. It was beautiful. And it had a glass door and I put another glass door on it. So what I didn't realize at the time, in the inspection, they said there was a leak under the master shower. The HOA and my real estate agent and their real estate agent said, great, okay, we're going to fix it. We're going to seal it. We're going to water test it. Everything's great. I never knew to re-inspect. And that's a big lesson that I want to leave with a lot of people. You buy a house, you buy anything, get it re-inspected after any repairs. So unbeknownst to me, there was mold growing underneath the subfloor between the shower drain and the subfloor for 2 years prior. And then I moved in and I noticed the first couple weeks of showering that my eyes would burn. And I remember telling my mom, I think that maybe there's a lot of chlorine in the water. And that was really it. There was nothing naked, invisible. I couldn't see anything. So I was traveling, thankfully that saved my life. I was traveling 100,000 miles a year with Cablevision at the time. I was in and out. Had I had a normal job, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And to fast forward, I started feeling very lethargic. I started feeling really heavy in my chest, respiratory issues, a lot of headaches. And I never attributed how I felt when I was home versus how I felt when I left my home. And that's a real important tip for people to understand. If you're not feeling well, evaluate your environment. Look outside. How do you feel when you're not home? How do you feel when you are home or in your office, et cetera? So to fast forward, no one would ever say in a million years that it was a blessing to get robbed. But I took my mom on a mother-daughter trip to New York. And when I got back, I had been robbed. And I was very unhappy with the HOA at that time. I did not know about the mold. But I had, right after that, got investigated for drugs with my company. I was a $4 million a year producer. I'd never done drugs in my life. What I didn't know, Shemane, is that I had severe neurotoxicity of the brain, and it was affecting everything that I did. And at that point, I was bleeding vaginally. I was bleeding from my nose. I had ulcerations in my mouth, ulcerations in my nose, and my skin was the color of your couch. And so everyone was concerned, is she going crazy? Maybe she needs to go to a mental hospital. And I never felt more persecuted in my life. And in fact, I had a good friend of mine say, pick me up, take me to Highland Park Presbyterian Church and leave me for 6 hours. And I just sat in the chapel and cried because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And so I get robbed. I said, that's it. I'm selling this place, unbeknownst to me, not knowing about the mold. There's a leak under the master shower with a new buyer inspection. So my real estate said, you're going to have to bring a plumber in, jackhammer this marble granite. And the minute he started doing it, you started seeing black, and you started seeing black. And then he goes, Miss Francis, we have a serious problem. He called his manager, and I went and got pictures, and it was 1 3/4 feet long by almost 2 feet deep of solid black mold. After they had stripped it, they found it had spread underneath the hardwood floors into my living room. It had spread up underneath the bathroom into my closet. So basically, I was living in a hell pit of black toxic mold.
And then all the clothes that you wore in your closet, because that's what happened to me.
Well, everything. I had to get rid of everything. Everything. Furniture, everything. But what happened was, so I remediated it. the HOA said, move on, clean it up. You're making a big deal out of this. I said, no, I'm really not. This is serious. And I remember in my lawsuit that the HOA assistant manager was pregnant. She wouldn't even come into the townhome. And so you start realizing when your brain starts to defog and detox, you start getting your memory back. And I couldn't remember if I turned on the water, I didn't remember to turn it off. And so fast forward 6 weeks later, I'm in Puerto Rico for a golf tournament for work. I wake up in the Puerto Rico ER. I didn't know I had passed out and I was having trouble breathing. So I flew home. I had heard of Dr. William Ray at the Environmental Health Center. I'd been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and so forth. And long story short, I knew I was dying and I knew that I needed to get in to see him. I wrote out my will. I hired an attorney. I told my parents, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be here much longer.
Wow.
And everyone's thinking, what's going on with this woman? Well, I had the mold report and Dr. Ray, within a few minutes, my mom said, your daughter can't breathe a 5 on a peak flow meter.
Yeah.
And so from that point, it was a year and 4 months of disability with my job. I was on oxygen 6 months straight. He couldn't do an MRI or a CAT scan because I didn't have the lung capacity to go through it.
Well,
so he saved my life. We did a lot of treatment, as you know.
Yeah, well, it was, Dr. Ray saved my life as well. And what year were you there?
This was in, I was started treating with him in 2007.
Okay, so I was there around 2003.
Okay.
And back then I was doing infrared sauna, vitamin IV, oxygen, and specific diet. Have you noticed that even though you're not in the home anymore, right?
Oh, no. I got out of it literally within 3 weeks of having it remediated, got into a new townhome, and everything has been fine. You know, protocol-wise, there's things I need to still do. I have an infrared sauna at my house, and there's still things, as you know, some of that stuff may not ever go away. I mean, I still have metal in my system, and you just have to practice protocol and practice.
And plus when you travel, there's fireproofing by law in every bed, in every mattress, in in all the sheets.
Yeah.
So, and if there's carpeting in the hotel that you're staying in, I mean, you probably
everything.
know. Yeah. I remember asking Dr. Ray what he would do when he traveled, because he would speak. He would give speeches a lot, and he would travel, and he said he used to put tinfoil down around his bed. I mean, it's amazing. When we first got sick, my husband was on tour, and that was a blessing that we had to get out of the house for a lot of the times. And that's when I realized...
You probably felt better when you were gone.
Yes, I felt better. I even went to London, and I felt great. And London is wet and damp and rainy, but when I came home, I got sick again.
Yeah.
Never slept.
Yeah.
Had all the same symptoms you talked about and more. How long did it take you to get well? Or are you still struggling with that?
I mean, I would say I'm never going to get rid of the fibro and the chronic fatigue. I still have metal in my system. And Dr. Ray actually made me an EPA case study. I had to fill out the Environmental Protection Agency paperwork because, as you know, he's the world's leader in the environmental health symposium and collects all the data around the world. He redid my toxicology test 7 or 8 times because he said there's no way that this person can have the level of toxin and poison in their system and still be here.
Still be alive.
And so he calls me his medical miracle kit because he said, you're not supposed to be here. And I said, well, God had other plans. That's what my mother said as well. But, it's a challenge. I mean, you put on a face for a lot of people because you want to psych yourself up and feel great. And there's a few products that I've been using. One that will be coming out soon called Infusion HF70. That's humic fulvic based water that's helped me tremendously. It also, I have a protocol. I go to a neurologist once a year now. I have balance tests. I get my saliva cortisol tests. And it's a lot of alternative treatment things that is very expensive. So
they call it alternative, but it's really not alternative medicine. It should
to the medical community, right?
It's functional medicine.
Agreed.
I mean, it's sad that we have to think of that. And
You're right.
Why can't we go to the doctor now and have them say, okay, I don't want to give you this prescription. I want you to do an infrared sauna,
right,
and see how you feel.
Well, that was funny because I remember going through my deposition and the attorney on the other side kept asking me, well, so if Dr. Ray asked you to drink jet fuel, would you drink jet fuel? And I looked at him and I said, you can ask me this 1,000 times. The answer is no. He gave me vitamin protocol.
Yeah.
He gave me infrared sauna treatment, vitamin C, niacin, vitamin A, all natural.
Glutathione.
Which I still take.
Me too.
I still take my drops. And the other thing that really helped me, I used to have colloidal silver IVs because I had so much metal in my system that Dr. Ray was like, it's going to take months and months and months to even get rid of this. So, it's been an interesting journey. And as you know, when you sit back, for me, I felt very persecuted because in my industry, people thought, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
And then when I did get sick, I found out very quickly who my friends were because people didn't understand that toxic black mold could make you that ill. And so it's been a great lesson for me to use what's happened to me to try to help other people.
Yes.
And when people know, they'll be, hey, what happened to you? What were your symptoms? And then I've helped people discover they have mold and, they don't have to go through what we did to try to figure it all out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, for being here, because that's what I'm trying to do too, is the only silver lining that I can think of why I lost my home, all of the contents in it, I got sick, I almost died. The only thing I can look at is that maybe if my story can help somebody,
That's right.
if somebody, and I get messages every single day that somebody says, thank you so much for speaking out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're in this book.
I wrote a book called Rising from the Ashes, and I will have a new book out next year called Break the Mold that'll be about the story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here.
I'm glad we're both here.
I know, me too.
Thank you, Dr. Ray.
Yes, thank you to Dr. Ray. We'll be right back.
Patriot Mobile was built on the values of Americans. We are humbled, recently achieving the highest customer satisfaction among all wireless providers. As America's only Christian conservative wireless service provider, you'll receive great performance, and we'll donate a portion of every dollar earned to support your values. Try a wireless company that really cares about you and your values. Call us today, mention Shemane, and get our best promotion.
Scott Enck is a former professional golfer, and unfortunately, Scott and I have a lot in common. Scott, tell us a little bit about what happened to you and how you're doing now.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So 2012, this was beginning of the summer, and the year before we were coming off one tragedy with a house and lost our house to a fire, and my wife and two young children at the time. And so we decided to move into a rental home and close by. And funny thing is, during the walkthrough with the leasing agent, upstairs in what would be my daughter's bedroom, she was 8 at the time, there were 2 stains on the ceiling that were just a little bit yellow. And I questioned him about it. And he said there was a water, but they fixed it. It's, there's paint down here, just paint over it. And okay, I, wasn't thinking anything otherwise. So moved into the house, and something was off from the start. I was working out of the home, starting actually a golf tournament consulting business, wanting to get out of the golf professional lifestyle with young kids. And
so you were on the PGA circuit.
I was actually a club professional. So I was at country clubs, giving lessons, running the tournaments, and mingled a little bit with running some PGA tournaments and that lifestyle.
Okay.
So we were there, had been there going on 3 months in the house. Didn't feel good. Just I was working from the house, couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus. Something was off. And just sort of being in there 3 months, middle of the night, my daughter, it's a storm, daughter screams, run upstairs, and the ceiling in her bedroom had literally caved in where those 2 spots were. And it was, thank God it didn't fall on her on the bed, but it was close by. But the nastiest, infested insulation, drywall, it was, I can't even explain it. So my initial thought, it's the middle of the night, was to get trash bags. Here I go upstairs, no gloves, no nothing, and start picking it up and put it in trash. I just wanted to get out of the house.
Right.
But it was a lot, and it was awful. So immediately the next morning, I did not feel good at all. Nose was completely clogged, and got a hold of a mold expert in Missouri, and he kind of deduced Stachybotrys from pictures I sent him. Get out. So with the house fire the year before and now this, we had to go with a family member. We unfortunately did not have renter's insurance yet. So as you know, you end up losing everything. With toxic mold. So we were in a relative's house for 3 days, and he said that we could go back and get some picture albums, and they could possibly be cleaned and restored. And so my wife went back, and she had been gone for like 2 hours, which was way too long because it was just a few miles away. Couldn't get a hold of her on the phone. So I drive over, and she's on the floor unconscious in the living room.
Oh my God.
Second I walk in, my eyes start burning. I can barely open my eyes. It's almost like it was the middle of the day, but almost like I'm in a fire to try to find her and get to her, call 911. She's rushed to the hospital, and it takes an hour for them to get her to wake up. And I sat there, held her hand the entire time, and it was terrifying. One of the things I noticed, because I didn't go back into the house after that, but I looked around, and the nails were literally downstairs coming out of the drywall, because we had turned the AC off 3 days ago when we left the house. So it was hot, and nails were popping everywhere.
Because of the humidity, moisture, heat?
The house was, the walls, wall to wall were covered. So it had been a leak that from one of the pipes going into the roof, the seal around it was broken. So every time it rained, so the leasing agent landlord obviously didn't have it inspected properly, and the house was sick from one corner to the other, upstairs, downstairs, and where the source of the mold was, where it was coming in, was literally 3 feet away from the AC unit in the attic. So it was like poison,
and then it got through the whole system, got through your air ducts.
Yes.
Did you ever determine? Did you get a test, or by that time you just knew?
We did. We did a sample.
Stachybotrys.
And it was Stachybotrys, 100%. And 3 days after my wife was hospitalized, I had the most grotesque discharge, from my nose. I can't even explain it. And was taken to the hospital, to the ER, and was literally rushed into emergency sinus surgery. Probably would have been dead in a couple of days. It was the stuff that was in my head and my nose. And after the surgery, the doctor came in and said he'd never seen anything like it. It was, grotesque is the best way to describe it. I then developed a tachycardia in my heart. Any exertion or golfing or lifting something, my heart would race to over 300 beats per minute. And the breaking point was we went to a storage unit with my daughter and son, and I was trying to get something, and it was hot, and I just collapsed. And my heart was just I thought that was it. And she was there, she was upset and crying. And then I went to a cardiologist, was diagnosed with a tachycardia from the mold. Had to have a procedure done, a fusion procedure, to correct that. And it was a devastating impact on our life. Still to this day.
How's your daughter?
Daughter is good. It was more traumatic, I would say, emotionally for her.
How old was she when that happened?
She was 8.
So, but that, I know from my son, when we were in the house, I really feel like that set him up for a lifetime of physical trouble. He's had digestive problems, he's had sinus problems, he's had eye problems. So what happens is it sets you up for a lifetime of difficulties, and she's got to be careful because she can get re-exposed.
Sure.
It's like the body, every cell in your body has memory. And when you get re-exposed, people like us are just more sensitive. Do you ever walk into a room and go, I can't even be in here? Do you ever, you get that feeling like your throat's closing up and your chest starts beating heavy, and because we can sense it. We're like the canaries in the coal mine, so to speak.
Yeah.
So how are you doing now?
So I'm now on my 4th sinus surgery. Nails, I showed you, it's gotten into my nails and just taking them off of this hand.
And I see you're shaking a little bit.
Basically, yeah. You know,
or is that just because you're here?
I don't know. No, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make me shake. But the confusion and focus, the ability to focus, brain fog, still memory.
Yeah.
The memories are so hit and miss from.
So are you working now? I mean, can
I'm working.
You work?
I got out of the golf business, and now I recruit physicians. I'm in physician staffing, and I place physicians primarily on the East Coast, Northeast, New York, New Jersey, and have been with my firm for 4 years. So it took about 3 years to get back on my feet and get to working again, and yeah.
Mold destroyed your life.
It absolutely, I mean, it destroys, I mean,
it's not
relationships. I heard Kim talking about when you have it and you find out who your friends really are and family. And, you know, it's a shame that we didn't have more support and help and you know, things could have been a lot differently.
I'm sure
been a lot different, excuse me.
I'm sure my husband, if he hadn't had a lot of similar symptoms that I did, I'm sure he would have thought I was crazy. And a lot of our family, not a lot, but a few family members really did. Like we were on oxygen. We would just have an oxygen tank. I would be that person that you'd see in the grocery store pulling an oxygen tank.
Yeah.
People just didn't understand. They thought it was, because they don't see a broken arm. They don't see you limping. They don't see the outside physical, but you know when you don't feel good.
Absolutely.
And what we've lost sight of is using our instincts, our basic instincts, to tell us how we should feel and how we shouldn't feel. And we know when we don't feel right.
Absolutely. And it's devastating. It affects going into certain buildings and how, and you know, if you get sick, the first thing that crosses my mind is there mold in this hotel or in this house or whatever, but it definitely stays with you, that's for sure.
And you've probably become chemically sensitive to a lot of different smells. Like when people burn scented cameras or scented candles and things like that, do you smell that?
Yeah.
And it gives you a headache?
Extreme, yes, absolutely.
And they don't understand that.
I mean, there's a lot more side effects and stuff, but those were the main ones.
Yeah,
sure.
It's just it's an overwhelming thing. Well, I thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your story, and I'm glad you guys are doing okay.
Thank you.
It never ends. It's always feeling like you're just trying to keep your head above water.
Absolutely.
But hang in there.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sharing your story will help others.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, we'll be right back.
Patriot Mobile was built on the values of Americans. We are humbled, recently achieving the highest customer satisfaction among all wireless providers. As America's only Christian conservative wireless service provider, you'll receive great performance, and we'll donate a portion of every dollar earned to support your values. Try a wireless company that really cares about you and your values. Call us today, mention Shemane, and get our best promotion.
Well, that's just a glimpse of some of the things that can happen to you if you've been affected by toxic mold. The symptoms are too numerous to list, but it can be fibromyalgia, upper respiratory symptoms, sinus problems, digestive problems, restless leg, restless body, migraines, headaches, so much. And it can even lead to the big C, cancer. So I've always said in doing these shows, we want to end on a light note. So Diana is here. We got to get out of this.
I'm going to brighten things up.
We got to brighten things up, Diana.
Yes.
Help me brighten things up.
Okay, so, you know, the best way to brighten your day is to give you a little bit of your puppy love.
Yes.
Because your dogs are the best. So
all dogs are great.
But of course you always love your own.
My dog. So what video do you have planned for me today?
It's a secret. It's a little bit long, but it's a really cute one.
I need something. So
I know.
Calgon, take me away.
Right.
Oh, okay. So this is a video that I made a couple of years ago where I was pretending that I was the voice behind what the dogs were doing. And they were actually, look, I'm trying to find a chipmunk. He's hiding in there. I'm going to find him. And I was pretending that, wait, I need help. So Happy's saying he needs help.
Oh, here comes Coco.
We'll help. Or no, Sadie was saying she needs help.
And there's Happy and Coco.
And as you can see, they completely destroyed the landscaping.
Right? There's mulch everywhere now.
But they knew, he's definitely in there somewhere. There's a chipmunk. Isn't that amazing? Like they would not give up. And they kept going back and forth and back and forth. And Sadie was like, yeah, I think he's in here. But so they all go on top.
Yeah,
you guys
come back. Come back.
You guys go on top. I'll search down below. They literally can't find him, but they know he's there somewhere.
They must smell it.
Yeah. Oh, what's that?
Hey, whose legs are those?
Those are Ted's.
That's Ted.
Human. How can you just sit there? This is an emergency. Like they're like, come on, let's destroy everything. We got to find this chipmunk.
Is it a mouse?
No, I don't know. It could be. We don't know. And it's so funny.
Look at them poking their head in the little holes. Oh, a chipmunk.
They kind of have it narrowed down. They think they do anyway, but it's in a wood pile. And it's so funny because this has happened so many times.
Look at their heads in there.
Yeah. They'll just stick their head in there. It's happened so many times and they never do get the chipmunk, Diana.
I mean, look at them. They're both trying to put it in the same time.
But
it must be really close to that spot.
Well, but look at,
I smell it.
But look at Happy down there. He's like, no, I think he's down there. And it's possible.
Oh, Coco's found something. Coco's found something.
Here, it's almost like they could talk. And then Happy says, wait, I'll just bite this wood.
That'll get it.
And then there's Sadie, like, how can I help? I think I resonate with Sadie because I always feel like that. How can I help? It's just so funny to see, how can we get in there? I don't have any thumbs.
The teeth aren't working. Oh, see, Coco's definitely more determined.
I'll dig him out. Yeah, Coco, they're all very determined. And it kind of takes your mind off of things.
Come quick. Ted's just sitting there.
Ted's just sitting there going,
you guys got this.
But they never do find that darn chipmunk or squirrel.
I mean, look at them. They're just biting and biting.
Biting and digging and Sadie's still down below.
I wish I had thumbs.
Isn't it so cute? It's something to take your mind off of, all the problems of the world.
It really is.
Okay, there's
down.
Happy.
I'm going down. See up here.
Don't leave me. Oh, okay, I'll come back.
Darn, I think we lost him.
Aw.
Do they give up?
I think they do give up. Well, either that or they just never.
They
completely destroyed the landscape.
We sure made a mess.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Sadie's under the deck.
Yes, under the deck. Hey, I'm under here. Aw.
Oh, they are so funny.
And they won't quit. I mean, it's amazing. But I
mean, inside, outside, on top, underneath, front, back.
But did you know there are dogs that can sniff out mold?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and there are dogs that can sniff out cancer as well. So this has been a real educating and inspirational segment and episode of
It's really made me think of a lot of things, the symptoms and things that I have of certain things. I'm thinking maybe I should go get checked out because
if you think
I have some of those fibromyalgia and restless leg pain, and I have a lot of that stuff.
Well, if you think there's a problem and you feel better if you go away and you spend the night at a hotel and you feel better and you go home, you start feeling sick again, that's an indication that something's wrong.
I have to pay attention to that.
Well, this was a heavy show, but it's important information. So thank you, Diana, and thank you, everybody, for sticking around. Don't forget, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central, we'll be right here, and we promise to end with something to make you smile. That's all for now. See you guys next time. Bye.